All right. Well, I think we're gonna get it started. We'll let some more people filter in as they do over the next couple minutes. But I wanted to hand it over to Carolyn again for our weekly meditation. So, Carolyn, take it away.
Hi, everyone. So today we're going to do a body tension release meditation. I assume most of you are sitting. So start by getting comfortable in your chair and relaxing. Take a deep breath and place your feet flat on the floor, really feeling your feet in contact with the ground underneath you. And just take a few more deep breaths like this for a moment. Start by focusing on your toes, scrunch them up, and then release. Now do the same with your ankles. Scrunch them up and release. Calf muscles, knees, and thigh muscles. Let any thoughts you may have float up and away from you in the air bubble. Now relax your buttocks, pelvic area, and now begin to notice any tension you may have in your back. Breathe deeply in, and as you breathe out, slowly relax and release any tension you may have in your back. Now your shoulders, lift them up and then release completely. Now it's time to relax your neck and jaw muscles. Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe out, let go of any tension you're holding in your neck and jaw. Let your jaw hang loose away from the rest of your skull. Let go of your tongue. Now let go of the space between your eyebrows. And finally, let go of the top of your head. Hike up your shoulders one last time. And as you release your shoulders, any remaining tension can sink down and flow out of you. Take a few more deep breaths and enjoy this feeling of relaxation and calm for a little while longer. Now slowly bring your attention back to the room. Begin noticing the sounds around you. And when you're ready, open your eyes. All right, thank you.
Amazing. So now that we've kind of started ourselves as a group and we've allowed some more people to come in, I'm going to pass it over to Ilse, the TA for social justice, to talk a little bit more about the content that you guys have seen on D2L about writing college essays.
Hi, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm just going to quickly, in a few minutes, just kind of go over like the college admission writing. It was something that we kind of touched on based on last week, but we kind of did run out of time. So I wanted to make sure you got an in-depth understanding of what Jordan and I were trying to discuss. Jordan is out today, so it's just going to be me. But I'm going to see if I can share my screen. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to go over something of what a personal statement is. And a personal statement is an essay that you write to show a college or university admissions committee who you are and why you deserve to be admitted to their school. And there's two ways as which you can write a personal statement. And one of those is the Common App. Common App is where you can apply to more than one university with the same application, and they actually have given prompts, and they have announced that for the 2020-2021 application year, the prompts will remain the same as of 2019-2020. So if you are interested and want to know what the prompts are, you can find them online by looking up Common App Prompts 2020-2021 school year. I quickly chose two that I thought were really interesting, and I think that most of you all would like to write on. The first one is reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking and what was the outcome? And the second was discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and new understanding of yourself or others. I think both of these prompts would really show to a college committee who you are as a person, but also how you are as a leader, and just really give off a good idea of yourself. I also think if you're not interested in following a Common App prompt, it's really important that you can write an essay of your choice. So you don't have to feel forced to use that given prompt. You have the ability to use your own essay that you have made or will write in the future. I also really think it's important to state that the Center of Arts and Entertainment offers editing. So if you have any scholarship essays or personal statement essays that you would like to be reviewed, you can email them to us, and one of the peer guides will go over it and provide you feedback. I also, oops, wrong thing. We're not going to my messages. We're going to, perfect. Okay. How do I'm not really good with Prezi. Jordan is. So I'm kind of have to figure this out. So, okay, perfect. An outline. Just a really quick outline example would be an introduction. I will give you guys some examples of how to start a really strong introduction. Your body will probably consist of 3 paragraphs. Have a really quick main idea, support some evidence, and then have your conclusion. And I will also give you some tips on how to have a really strong conclusion for your paper. Okay, Jesus Christ, I am really bad with this Prezi thing. Okay, great. Tips. To have a really good introduction, the introduction is the first thing that the college or university committee is going to look at. So I think it's really important to follow one of these 3 attention grabbers. You can either propose a question, so ask the reader this question about your topic. You can be very descriptive with your words. I think Caroline does a really, really good job of being really descriptive when we're going over the calming sessions. So I think just like that, it kind of gives you like a personal image in your head. So I think being very descriptive kind of allows the reader to create an image of what you are describing within their own head. I also think it's important to maybe, if you want to be very mysterious, kind of introduce a little bit of your topic, but just enough where they'll be really engaged and want to know what you're going to discuss. Creating curiosity within the reader will make your application stand out because they'll be really excited and eager to read what you are going to write on. I also think it's really important to have like a very strong conclusion, a very thought-provoking conclusion. So it's kind of like reiterating your thesis statement, reiterating those supporting details that you have stated earlier. Also maybe a call to action regarding your essay, and kind of just leaving your reader with something to think about, and kind of make sure that they remember who you are as the application process continues. So those are just some quick tips, outline, and idea and understanding of what a personal statement is. So I am done. I don't know. Stop share.
Awesome. So we hope that you were able to access those materials. I want to repeat also that the free essay editing service, we have a flyer put on D2L in the general section, in the general information section of the adulting page on D2L. So if you want to access the flyer, it has our email there and all the information, but that's a really good resource. And definitely you can always go back into previous week's content to check out what we've talked about in the past. But thank you, Ilse, for that quick recap. Now we're going to shift over to a discussion with a featured guest of ours. She is the assistant director for the Association for Financial Counseling. She got her master's in media and cinema studies from DePaul. Natalie Daniels, take it away.
Just kidding. Hi, everybody. Let's unmute myself and actually say hi. I'm Natalie, and like Kaylin mentioned, I'm the Associate Director for the Financial Fitness Program here at DePaul. What my job is really I work with students to create a strong financial plan while they're in college, and I also work with incoming students to build financial plans for getting to college, paying for school while they're here, and kind of working through not just their college finances, but their personal finances as well. So what I want to do today, I know we don't have a lot of time, so I want to kind of open it up to some questions. I know you saw a video that I put together kind of explaining college costs. And then I want to talk a little bit about on and off-campus employment while we're in school as well. So I think the first thing I want to just talk about a little bit, again, is more about the financial fitness program at DePaul. Myself, and then we have about 4 student workers. I'm a certified financial counselor, and then they've gone through extensive training to become peer financial advisors. And while we're here throughout the summer, throughout your program, I think I do want to offer access to our team if you do have any follow-up questions. So I'm just gonna share my screen really briefly in a second when I get my internet going. There we go. And show you our main page and how you could set up an appointment with us. So our page, it gets a weird link, but it's just financialfitness.depaul.edu. And if you scroll right down the middle, you'll see right here, there's a place where you can schedule an appointment with us. And then right down here, there's an appointment request form. So because usually we'll be looking at students that are in our system, you can just put down here that you're part of the college success program, and we'd be able to tell you a little bit about your finances and your college planning. Also, that's my other screen. I just want to let you guys know, because it's a little bit embarrassing, but I have an Amazon package on the way, and if it comes while I'm talking, my dog is gonna freak out. So I just wanted to let you know ahead of time, in case my dog starts barking uncontrollably, that could happen. Cool, so that's a good place to get started, and I'm gonna also put our website in the chat. So that you all can see that too. All right, so just to get started, I do want to open it up. Feel free to unmute yourselves or put a question in the chat. What are some of the things that you all are nervous or stressed or confused about when it comes to college finances?
The cost.
The cost, okay. So that's just the big overarching thing, the cost. And are you thinking about that post? I know we talked in the video a little bit about post cost, or the sticker price versus actual cost, right? So thinking about what those differences are, FAFSA application, everything, monthly of timing periods. Okay, so there's a lot of different things you all are certainly nervous about. Student loans, real. About 76% of all students nationwide do have some kind of a student loan. So it's a reality for everybody, not everybody, but for most of our students throughout the country. So not just here in DePaul, throughout. Making sure you're getting the best option or deal, that's a really good place to start. And also thinking about scholarships. So let me start with some scholarship tips. So we have a lot of places you're going to see a lot of scholarships posted. Couple things that you want to keep in mind as you're thinking about scholarships are really making sure that you're checking out their website as clearly as possible. I know we get scholarships sent into the financial fitness team, and my student employees kind of vet them and see what's legitimate. And there's a lot that they actually turn down because they don't really seem like legitimate scholarships. So some things that we're on the lookout for when we're looking for scholarships and if we want to post them or not are, one, if they're charging anything for a scholarship application. Never ever go for a scholarship that charges you anything. Another thing we really are on the lookout for is if they're asking you to link to your social media accounts in any way, shape, or form. A lot of times companies will be like, we'll give you a scholarship, but like post about how much you like our product on Instagram, and then whoever gets the most likes on it is going to potentially get this scholarship. And really, that's just kind of a marketing tool to get their content out. And yeah, they might give someone a scholarship, but they're also mining your data for a lot of things. So we certainly don't post scholarships like that. And then we also do a lot of searching on a company's website. So there was a scholarship, and this was a couple years ago, but it looked like their main website page looked okay. It looked like they had a legitimate scholarship application. But as we started clicking around on their website, we noticed some weird things. One of them being when you looked at the staff of their company, they had listed George Washington, Beyonce, and there was someone else like Thomas Edison or something ridiculous. And we're like, okay, that's not a real thing. But if you had just looked at the initial page, it would have looked at like a legitimate scholarship, and you could have given that company your information. So it's really about being discerning, being smart, making sure you're checking on everything. If the scholarship application is to like some random Gmail address, maybe not. If it's like a legitimate, company address, that's something that's gonna be probably a little bit more accurate. We also look to see if they have past winners on their sites. Not every scholarship will do that, but that's something that can certainly give you a good hint if a scholarship is real or not. So I'm talking about, through the school that you're applying to, those should be legitimate scholarships. But for example, like on DePaul's scholarship site, I'm just gonna pop that up for an example. Give me 1 second to share that screen.
And also you have a debt question as well, Natalie.
Sure, thanks, Jason. So this is our main scholarship, and you'll see when you go to opportunities, you see ours, which are the DePaul specific ones, but you also see external. So these are the things that like our team is vetting and that gets posted. So these are scholarships that you all could be looking at and applying for, but these are also like this random companies will send them to us. And you'll also see things from like scholarships.com or FastWeb. Those are some of the really popular scholarship websites. All right, so let me look at that kind of student debt question. So one of the things that I talked about, the link that I sent, you can contact us through this summer, just because you're part of a program here at DePaul, and I want to extend that to you all. But generally it is for DePaul students. So as you're talking about student debt, one of the things that I think I mentioned in the video is a general rule of thumb is to try not to borrow more than your estimated starting yearly salary. Now, that's a general rule of thumb. And I will say that plenty of people borrow more and do just fine. Plenty of people borrow less and also do just fine. And, there's a lot of different factors that go into it. When you're thinking about student debt and loan repayment, it's really looking at a matter of time and cost. So I'm going to go to one more website, and I'm going to do this from the main financial fitness website so you can kind of see the path that I'm going to. So let me share that screen again. So right over here in our calculators and worksheets section, there's a lot of information. We have some downloadable budgets that you can use here, some goal setting sheets that can be really available. But I'm just gonna click on this general student loan repayment calculator. And this shows us a couple things as far as loan repayment. I'm gonna pop in an average. This is kind of the national average student loan debt. Certainly some people are gonna have less, some people have more. I'm going to use this year's interest rates on our federal student loans, and I'm gonna put us on a 10-year repayment. That's the general repayment to start. So now I'll have a minimum payment of $50. That's also the federal minimum payment. So with that loan amount, in 10 years, you're paying about $286 a month. I think of that as like a decent car payment. It's not like a super fancy car. It's not a junker car. It's like your regular average car payment. And that would be for about 10 years. You'll see the total interest that you pay over the life of the loan as well. But let's say somebody wants to pay this loan faster, right? So if we pop in here and go to 5 years that they want to be done, that payment goes up a lot. That's a fancy car now. You're talking like a Tesla or something. So you're looking at $500 a month. But that interest also gets cut in half. So as you're thinking about what's most important for you, it could be getting your loans paid off fast, and that could mean you're staying with family, you're not, paying rent as much on your own for a couple years. It could be taking a longer time, which means you'll pay more interest. So there's a lot of different factors that come into how you want to repay your debt. And there's also some plans about that let you make plans based on your income. So there's really a lot of different options as far as paying your debt off that you can really use throughout. But it can be scary. I know that for a fact. And that's kind of what our office and other offices at different colleges and universities that do financial wellness are really there to focus on. I want to tap into talk about if you have money left over from scholarships, can you still receive that extra scholarship money? That is a tricky question. So there is something in the financial world that is called tuition restricted aid, which means that some aid can only be used for billed tuition and fees. So not even like housing if you were living on campus, but just tuition and fees. So some scholarships are tuition restricted. Those are often the ones that come from the school. Those tend to be tuition restricted. Outside scholarships that you get from a community organization or an external company, kind of what I was showing on that academic work site, those may not be tuition restricted. There's also some grants, like the federal Pell is not tuition restricted, but the Illinois MAP grant is tuition restricted. So it really depends on if that money that you're getting is restricted to tuition or not. You're able to get some of that back. But if you have, let's say that all of your money is for tuition and fees, and then you have something like in a Pell Grant or in a non-tuition restricted scholarship, then you would be able to get that money back. So question on paying for DePaul's tuition. So you get a bill from us. We're a school that's on the quarter system, meaning we have a fall, winter, spring, and then an optional summer quarter. So we have 3 quarters throughout the year. So we charge tuition every single quarter. So you see that big number. This is your tuition for the whole year. You see your scholarships, your grants, all of that aid for the whole year, but it's actually separated into thirds. So we really focus fall, winter, spring, and you'd get a bill for each term. And then your aid would apply for that term as well. Your bill would be whatever is remaining. So we do have a couple options. You can pay in one big chunk at the beginning of the term, but we do have payment plans. You can separate that out into monthly payments as well. So there's a couple different options there. I know I've seen a lot of questions and I'm trying to get some other things that I'm missing. If you want to type those back in, I'm going to scroll back up a little bit. Thank you. And so if you're supposed to pay everything before graduating, that's a good question. So as far as their tuition and fees, if you have not paid, let's say it's fall quarter and you haven't paid all of your fall tuition and fees, they will not let you register for winter quarter classes until that is paid off. So you have to pay your balance for each quarter before you can register for the next quarter. So you have to kind of have a plan to get through that every quarter, whether that's with financial aid or paying out of pocket or a mixture of the two, scholarships, loans, grants, all of that. So you would pay your tuition and fees before you graduate, but you wouldn't necessarily be paying your loans or anything like that before graduation. That really happens based on your loan starts 6 months after you graduate or fall below half-time status. That kind of answer that question? I know it's a lot. It's really technical. And I do want to just kind of pop over to a couple more websites that I think would be really helpful for you to kind of know about going forward. So one is, and I'm trying to put these both in a place that's easy to see.
You also got a request to repeat that last part.
The part about how you pay, you have to pay per quarter, essentially. So you pay your tuition every quarter. Sorry, that's, you give me half a second.
Now, while Natalie is attending to Amazon, please put those other questions in there as well. So this is going to be.
Sorry about that. So yeah, I know, I was like, dog was gonna spaz out. I knew it was gonna happen. So you're paying your tuition and your fees every quarter, and then you're going to pay your loans after you graduate. And she's still going. She's like a little Energizer bunny out there. All right, so a couple screens that I wanna share with you are first, this is the net price calculator, and this is a government website. I'm gonna pop that in the chat also. If I can get it back open while I'm sharing my screen, which is tricky. I'll do it in a second. And this, you can really look for different schools. Of course, I'm gonna search for DePaul just because that's where we are. And you can kind of do an estimate of what your aid would be based on your family's income information. So this is obviously, it's not gonna be a promise of what your financial aid package would look like, but it gives you kind of an idea about what you might be getting as far as scholarships. This is with the grade point average and test scores. That's gonna be scholarship based. All this stuff at the top, your bank statements, your earning, tax information, that's gonna be what we call need-based aid. So that's your grant aid, that's the Pell Grant, the MAP grant, and then also the DePaul grant. And then we also have, and I'm gonna put that net price calculator right here. And then we also have, this is a really new resource called the Financial Path to Graduation that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau just put out. And this is a little bit more if you have a financial aid offer. So after you've applied to some schools, you've gotten different offers from your financial aid, and you're kind of wanting to shop around and do a little comparison between those different plans. This tool will let you do that. So you take your kind of financial aid offer, and let's say, I'm gonna do this really quick. I know it's time, I don't want to go over. And let's say we're going to do 4 years. Let's say on campus, that certainly would change costs. And they'll kind of ask you about your costs, and they'll show you what is and what is not covered through this calculator. So this is a really nice thing to kind of, once you do get some offers, to see what, kind of how to compare them and some things like that. It looks like I have just a couple minutes left. So what are some other questions that people have? I'll give it just a second to type those in. I'm going to roll back and let my dog back in the room so she doesn't scratch a hole in my door. The challenges of working at home, y'all. Okay, so I don't see anything coming in yet. So I'm going to take just 2 minutes and talk about working on campus. It's a great thing to do if you are able to get an on-campus job while you're in school. One of the big perks is that when you work on campus, they do not take Social Security and Medicare taxes out of your check. So if you were working off campus, you'd see an additional tax burden versus working on campus. When you are working on campus, generally you're limited to 25 hours per week of work. If the school has that, if your job has that many hours available, some of them won't have that many, but you're limited to 25 hours a week. And that's because research really shows that even if students are working more than 20 hours a week, you start to see people suffering in their grades and their general scholastic achievements. Now, that being said, some people have to work more than that, right? Like that's the reality. And that's okay. People make that work all the time. But on campus is usually going to be limited to 25 hours a week. It also can be hard to get. So for example, here at DePaul, we generally have about 3,200 to 3,500 on-campus jobs available every year. We have 14,000 undergraduate students. So simple math, not every student is going to be able to get an on-campus job. So making sure that you're looking at those different options is really important. As far as the types of jobs and pay, it really, really ranges. You could have a job, you know, working at a front desk in an office, working at a front desk in the dorms for security. I hire students to train and be financial advisors for other students. So depending on the level of the job, you'll see a change in pay. So here in Chicago, starting July 1st now, our minimum wage is $14 an hour. So you won't see a campus job paying less than minimum wage of $14 per hour. As the jobs get more difficult, require more skills, you do see those jobs raising. My highest paid student, I think, makes around $16.75 or so an hour. So, you know, but she has 3 years of experience doing the work that we do. So it really depends on kind of the job itself, your qualifications, and, you know, you get raises the longer you've been there. And she's been working with me for 3 years now. She started at the end of her freshman year and is now starting graduate school. So she's been there a while. But it really does depend as far as the types of jobs and salary. I know DePaul doesn't use student workers in our dining halls, but a lot of schools certainly do. It just really depends. The range is pretty wide as far as those. Right on time at this point? Is that correct?
Yes, just a couple of minutes over, but that's okay because we
Okay.
on getting our other presenter in. So she's in now. We got to do some presentation stuff, so I'm pulling it up on my end now. But
Okay, perfect. So thank you all so much for your time. Certainly, if you miss any of those links I put in the chat, Jason or Kate, if you can pull those and send those out to everybody, certainly feel free to reach out to me and my team with any questions. Thank you all so much. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
awesome. Thank you, Natalie. Go ahead, Kayla.
Yeah, I just want to say, as we heard from Jason just a second ago, we'll be hearing from our next featured speaker. You might have heard her name if you go to CPS. She is the Senior Scholarship Manager at CPS, and so she's an amazing resource for finding ways to pay for college, especially for CPS students. But all of it, I mean, the majority of what she can talk about will apply to everybody, even if you're on CPS. So, Michele Howard, welcome. We're happy to have you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My husband is a DePaul alum, so I do feel like I'm a bit at home with the DePaul team. But again, I'm extremely happy to be on the line with you all, or on the video with you all today. I think this is an incredibly important time and space for students to have or understand what resources are available to them and to know how to use them. We did have a little bit of some technical difficulties. Sorry about that, but Jason is going to work my presentation for me, right, Jason?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if you, Jason, want to share your screen and I'll just talk through it. So the first thing that I want to make sure that students recognize is, yes, I work for Chicago Public Schools, and I do support Chicago Public School students specifically. But there are also a number of scholarship opportunities that are national, that are local, that are not just for CPS students. And so I want to make sure that you understand that. I've kind of crafted this presentation to do that, to help you understand what's specific to CPS, and then what is something that, or the number one thing that I want to help students recognize about scholarships is that this whole getting to and through college is tough, right? It's not a cakewalk. It's definitely a process. And so I want you to recognize that 95% of college-bound students miss out on aid each year. Why do you think that? Somebody tell me in the chat, why do you think that 95% of college-bound students, meaning these are students who say, hey, I want to go to college, I know that this is for me, I've been admitted, all of that, but 95% of them miss out on aid each year. Why do you think that? And I'm reading the chat. Yes, Alex Flores. Oh, hey, Samantha. Hey, Natalie. Yes, Alex, great response. They don't know about the aid. That is it. They don't apply to FAFSA. So yes, FAFSA is included in that, but most students do apply for FAFSA, right? They don't apply for external partnership, external scholarships. Yes, Cynthia, you're absolutely right. There's small and local scholarships. Michelle, great response. But even still, every dollar counts. So if one scholarship is $50, another scholarship is $500, you have $550 if you win those scholarships. Great responses, guys. And that's exactly why students miss out on aid each year, and aid not just being financial aid in the sense of going through the FAFSA, but aid as in scholarships, right? Very good. 71% of students in college leave with debt. And so that is kind of connected, right? So if you go in and you're not sure about what you need, how much you need, when you're trying to get out, you're not sure as you're going through the process of how to keep up with those financial responsibilities. And so it's really important for students to access scholarships, because scholarships are intended to support you in the process. And that's exactly why I open up each of my presentations with this kind of whole student who's looking to be a graduate, right? But doesn't have all the things in place to do that. So we can move to the next slide, Jason. So how do I help you, aside from just knowing where to get scholarships, knowing where to apply for scholarships, how do I help you win scholarships, right? What happens with scholarships that I've learned is that the money is in the essay, right? And you have access to folks who are going to be helping you through every single component of this process. I was very glad to see the agenda of folks that'll be you'll be meeting with today. I know after this you'll be talking about the actual letter of recommendation, which is excellent. But what I've found is that students don't put who they are on paper. And so that's what becomes the money and the gold of scholarships. If every student on this line, there's about 93 folks on this line, right? So let's say, for instance, all of us were going after a scholarship. We all had the same GPA. We all had the same test score, right? What would make someone want to give me the scholarship and not you? Or what would make someone want to give you the scholarship and not me? Well, what allows people to understand what you have to offer is putting yourself on paper. And so I have a business degree. My first degree is in business marketing. And so when I thought about one of the tools that we use in the business world, it's called a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so when companies are looking to expand their products or expand their partnerships, they most likely put folks through a SWOT analysis so they can get a better understanding of if they really want to keep this product moving, what are some areas where they can that the product is weak, What are some areas where they can grow this partnership or this product? And then what are some things that are going to keep them from being successful? So when I was in high school, one of the things that I would have said was my strength was tennis. Why? Because I was good at tennis, right? But as I grew up, basically, and as I got more exposure to different things, I recognized that communication was my strength. And I didn't really recognize that until I was in college, right? You could put me in any environment, anywhere, anybody, no matter how old, no matter how young, no matter how professional, no matter if it's a, environment with my peers, but I talk to you or talk to a person or get around the room, right? Networking was my thing. So somebody in the chat, tell me what you believe your strengths are. Give me one strength that you are aware of right now. And it has to be something that you can apply to any arena. So tennis couldn't be applied to every arena, but communication could. So work ethic, Emma, yes. If we put Emma in any environment, she is going to work hard. She is going to push through. She's going to make it happen. I love it. Sabina, creativity, wonderful. That's a good one. Time management, Cynthia, awesome. So when we move to weaknesses, procrastination was one of my weaknesses, right? So we're going to move to weaknesses. So now think about some areas where you might not be as strong. Being outspoken, Kristen, excellent. Organization, wonderful, Melissa. Flexibility, Zach, I like that, right? So if we move to weaknesses, so mine was procrastination, right? And I felt like I was doing better with this, but I did send my presentation the day that it was due, right? I also tried to log in 5 minutes before instead of 10 minutes before, right? Which left us with a couple of technical difficulties. So I'm still working on that, right? And the reality is, if something is your weakness in high school, it will potentially be your weakness in college, and it can potentially be your weakness when you become an adult. The goal is to be aware, right? So as you become more aware of what your strengths are, 93% of leaders operate from their strengths. As you become more aware of what your weaknesses are, you will surround yourself with folks who have your weakness as a strength, right? So again, all of these things and all of this kind of information, putting these things on paper help you recognize who you are, and then it helps someone who's reading about you recognize who you are. And everybody knows nobody's perfect, right? If you were perfect, you wouldn't need to go to college, right? Because in college, you learn and grow. So that's strengths. We talked about weaknesses. Now, what are some opportunities? Where are some opportunities for growth? When I was in high school, I wanted to be a veterinarian. The reason that I know that I don't want to be a veterinarian, or I didn't want to become a veterinarian after a while, was because I started volunteering and then working at an animal clinic. So I put myself in the way of an opportunity to see if this was really what I wanted. That did not turn out to be so great because I am not a veterinarian. I'm obviously the scholarship manager of CPS, which is far, far, far away from animals. But it's about putting yourself in the way of opportunities, right? So again, understanding what are some of those aspects or things that you say that you want to do, and how do you then put yourself in the way of those opportunities to really see if they can work for you. And then finally, threats. There are always things that will stop you from being successful. You have to know what those things are. And then once you do a chart like this, you put maybe 2 to 3 things in each box, then you build out paragraphs about your strengths. You build out paragraphs about your weaknesses. And sometimes you don't know your weaknesses until you're putting yourself in the way of an opportunity and something comes up like, whoa, time management is not my thing. I need to work on that, right? So again, this is how you build out a very concrete essay that's not just about you winning the academic decathlon, or you being an all-star basketball player, or you being at the head of your class with your GPA. What your SWOT analysis pulls out is your character. That is what people need to know who are willing to give you money, right? So again, this is one of the tools and strategies that I encourage students to become familiar with, because this will help you then put who you are on paper, and that is what people want to know. People want to know who you are, and then they want to know what you're going to do. Okay, so a SWOT analysis helps you outline that information. So that was just my quick tidbit on that. Put this in the pocket, come back to this, work on this within your teams and your groups during these next couple of weeks with the College Connect program. Sit down with someone who's considered your mentor in this program and say, hey, help me think through what my strengths and weaknesses are. Help me think through some ways that I can put myself in the way of more opportunities. Help me think through things that can stop me from being successful, okay? Very good, next slide. Was that helpful? Do we understand that? Did that make sense? Pulse checking, yes, from Alex. Thank you, Alex. Great, Max. Good job, Zach. All right, thank you. So the next thing that I want you all to work on is strategies, right? So oftentimes we talk a lot about the different things that students need to do for scholarships, right? And we're like, you need to apply, right? And that is great. But applying for scholarships is just as, if not harder than applying for college. You know which colleges you want to attend. You probably have 5 or 6 schools that you're like, hey, these are my top 5, dead or alive, I'm going, right? However, scholarships are different. There are hundreds of scholarships, and you want to focus on scholarships that you're actually eligible for. And so what I've recognized in my years of doing this work, and always keep in mind, I just, you don't know this about me, but I'm going to tell you, I just had a son. My son will be 1 next month. So I've always said that I am your favorite auntie, and I'm always thinking of the student first, right? I'm keeping the students in mind, right? So in doing that, what I try to do with students and parents is say, hey, doing scholarships is not an everyday thing. There are so many scholarship opportunities, and there's a lot of work and effort that has to be put into completing scholarship opportunities. So I came up with a little strategy for application completion. Now it is 3 days out of the week, right? But I'm saying you need 3 days out of the week and at least 2 hours. All right. So you want to knock this out in 2 hours for 3 days out of the week. And then the other days you can do other things. And I'm sure you have plenty of other things to do. But I've outlined what the strategy looks like for you. You can adjust this as you need to, but I'm telling you, this is probably the most efficient route that I've seen work for students. So over the 3 days, you're doing 3 big buckets of work. So on Monday, you're reviewing scholarship resources and identifying every scholarship that you're eligible to apply for. That is not you applying for the scholarship. That is literally you making a list of the ones that you're saying, hey, I'm spending all this day to focus on just looking for scholarships that I'm eligible to apply for. Then you're going to chart out those scholarships. You're going to chart out the deadlines. You're going to chart out what you need to complete that scholarship. So if you need 1 recommendation or 2, if the recommendation has to come from a counselor or a teacher or a specific teacher or a camp counselor, something along those lines. By the end of Monday, you want to know everything that you need to do to potentially apply for these scholarships that you're eligible for. Okay? Got it. All right. So the next set of things that you're doing on Wednesday, you're going through all of the paperwork, right? You're requesting recommendations if you need to. You're requesting transcripts. And these things are going to be done as you're moving through the school year. But again, this is all about making Monday for searching and figuring out what you need to do, making Wednesday for completing paperwork and editing essays and getting everything done that physically needs to happen to apply for the scholarship. And then on Friday, all you're doing is applying. Right? So you can always come back and look at this kind of setup and strategy for application completion. But the goal is that this is an ongoing process. You need accountability partners, and then you have to do what works for you. But ultimately, you have to do the work. So I've seen this strategy work, and I want to make sure that you're aware of how to do that. And so again, always come back to this chart to help you go through that process. A couple of things that we'll just kind of graze through, because again, you have access to this presentation. So this is really more so a guide to help you navigate through the scholarship process. So you want to make sure that you're establishing a brag sheet. I'm sure you've probably already heard of that. But the brag sheet is not for you, it's for other people, right? When you go and ask for a letter of recommendation, they have to know who you are. And sometimes they know you in passing. Sometimes they know you to be a smart kid, but they don't really know what you do, why you do it, and how often you do the things that you do. So having a brag sheet is important. Build relationships. So you don't want to ask somebody for a recommendation who you don't know well and who don't know you well. So again, as you move through the school year, start thinking about the people who you want to build relationships with, right? And then ask people to use their reference in the future. And I'm sure you'll learn more about this. You'll hear more about this in your next presentation. So again, these are just some tips to go through to help you understand what you should be doing. Next slide. You always want to make sure that you are creating thoughtful and effective essays. So sometimes you'll be using different you'll have a different scholarship question for different scholarships, but you can pull some of those paragraphs from one essay to use on another essay to complete a scholarship application. So again, make sure that you're thinking through and always writing thoughtful and effective essays. You also want to have strong recommendations. You'll talk about that again. Timely application completion. The earlier, the better. So you don't want to wait to the deadline. You want to apply ahead of the deadline. And then get help. Okay, ask somebody to review your information before you submit it. That's always a great added plus for our students, because every now and then you miss a word, or you don't complete a thought because you're writing the essay. But someone who's reading this for the first time will say, hey, you missed that in that sentence, or you missed a capitalization. Those things are important, believe it or not. So the next couple of slides are going to walk you through some of our CPS scholarship opportunities and the tools that we use. The one thing that I want to make sure that you do, the one thing I want to make sure that you do is there's a slide that says pull up your email. Jason, so I think you need to click maybe 3 more times. There's a slide here that says pull up your email. So in order for you to connect with me directly, you can email me at collegescholarships@cps.edu. We're turning over our resources right now to prepare for the new school year, but follow the outline here. Pull up our email, email me, put in DePaul College Connect. Once you send the email, refresh your account and you'll see an auto response. Start reading through that auto response, because that's the information that I want to make sure that you're connected to, so that you can have access to our scholarship resources. Question, could you reuse essays or should you always rewrite? You should always reuse essays if you can. In some instances, you might have to rewrite. Emma, that's a great question. Most scholarship providers are asking you the same thing. Who are you? What do you want? What have you done? What areas have you served in your community? Things of that nature. You should always be able to pull a scholarship or essay from an essay. You should always be able to pull a paragraph or two to combine it into something else. Why? Because you always should be talking about who you are. You always should be talking about what your goals and aspirations are. Every essay, regardless of if they're asking you that or not, should have that included. So you should have 1 or 2 paragraphs that you can always use and pull for different essays. But smarter, not harder. You shouldn't have to always create new essays for every scholarship opportunity. All right, does that answer your question, Emma? The next slide is just going to show you what the auto response looks like in our account. And so again, we're updating this information, but we have a scholarship e-blast list. So you can sign up to get scholarships directly to your email account. If you are not a CPS student, once you go through the form, you'll just click other, and then we'll be sending you everything. We might not be able to be as specific with the opportunities that we send you. We'll just have to send you everything, but better more than none. Okay. Another tool that we have is a live scholarship alert workbook. So every time we update a scholarship in our CPS tool, we put it in this live scholarship workbook, which is a basically a Google Excel sheet. And so you can really use that Google Excel sheet to help provide you with a template for what you should be looking for with your scholarships. But the other thing that Excel workbook does is it outlines scholarships. The monthly tabs are for seniors. There's a tab for 9th through 11th graders. So if there's opportunities for 9th through 11th grade students, we list them there. And then we also list elementary scholarships as well. So if you are a rising senior, you should be able to go through those monthly tabs, and that will share information about all of the scholarships that are due in that month. So again, it helps you outline the different things, outline the different scholarships that you might be eligible for, because we highlight some of that information in the scholarship alert workbook. So everything that's in blue is a link for you to click on. And so you'll see that once you email us at the College Scholarships account. Nothing, Abigail, good question. You don't have to put anything in the body of the email. Just literally put DePaul College Connect in the subject line. I'll know it's from you. And just press send and refresh the email. So that email account was established to be in communications with students and parents and practitioners. So a lot of what we already have, or what we're trying to get you to, is in that auto response. The next slide is going to show you a couple of resource websites. So obviously CPS Academic Works is the CPS site. If you're a CPS student, you're also using our Naviance tool, but there are several other great resources, and this is just a few, right? So the uncf.org/scholarships, College Greenlight, bigfuture.collegeboard.org, Education Planner. So these are larger scholarship partners that I know are going to be good for you to get connected to now. You usually have to create a profile. Once you create those profiles, they'll begin to send you scholarship information as well. So get up on that or those connections now. And then these next few slides are just, oh, the little guy. These next few slides are just a few tips to help you. So obviously I'm not going to go through all of this right now, but sit down and go back through this presentation and make notes, right? So one of the highlights that I want to say is have a few options. That means more than two, okay? Have a few options. On the next slide, make copies of everything you submit. Keep a receipt. Know the dates. Sometimes students are emailing me about scholarships, and I promote over 200 scholarships. So students are writing me saying like, hey, can you give me an update on that scholarship? What's that scholarship? I have no clue which one you're talking about, right? So always try to know what you're talking about, know your business, and that is knowing the dates, knowing the contacts, knowing what you need, knowing what you've submitted, knowing the name of the scholarship, knowing the amount of the scholarship. That information will be helpful for you when you're in communication with folks like me around scholarships. And then finally, read. It is so important to read in this portion of your senior year, because everything most people are sending you is via email. So everything is already outlined for you. We just sent out several emails regarding the Gates Scholarship, which is the largest minority scholarship for student leaders in our country. And I literally sent out an email with links to everything from the Gates website to the DePaul Center for Access Entertainment writing support. And students have been writing me back saying, hey, how do I access the scholarship? And I'm like, that's literally flashing in red at the top of the email, right? So it's really important for you to read through everything that you can, and asking questions is important. And asking questions is necessary in most instances, but it's important that you read through the information first, because again, most people are sending you everything that you need to know in an email. So be sure to do follow up with reading, and then follow up with questions if you need to. So those are my tips. The last slide is about, asking questions. If you have any questions, you can throw them in the chat. I'm not sure how much time I have. I'm probably over my time. But if you have questions, you can put them in the chat box, or you can email directly at the collegescholarships@cps.edu account. Again, you'll be emailing me there anyway, just to get the auto response. But if you have specific questions, you can ask me in the chat or via that email account. So I have about 3 minutes. Questions? Any questions? Oh, go ahead.
Hi. I have a question on trying to find local scholarships, because I myself live outside of, I don't attend CPS. So it's always brought up about how you should also look for local scholarships. So I was wondering, do you have any tips on how to try to find those?
Absolutely. So unfortunately, it's hard to find local scholarships if you're not connected to local organizations. So what I would do is look up local organizations. So the Chicago Engineering Foundation is a local organization. The Rotary Club is a local organization. Whatever university you're planning to attend, they probably have an alumni organization that is located in Chicago, because we're a big city, right? And then also connect with me via scholarships, because some of the scholarships that I promote are specific to CPS students, but some of them are just literally local scholarships that are looking to award Chicago and Chicagoland area students. So still connect with me at the collegescholarships@cps.edu account. And again, the opportunities that are available to you, you will be able to sift through and find them. Just off the top of my head, I'm thinking about local scholarships from the city of Chicago. So there's a essay, 2 essay opportunities that are provided through the city treasurer's office. The mayor's office offers several different scholarship opportunities, and they are for students who are local. Some of the organizations like fraternities and sororities offer local scholarship opportunities. So again, it's really just about making sure that you're connected with the right resources, and I'm the right resource, even though you're not a CPS student. So like I said, you will email me at the college scholarships account, put DePaul College Connect in the subject line, press refresh, and we're turning over our resources right now. So give me about a week. We'll have everything turned over by next week. But once you sign up for the scholarship alerts, you will put in other, because you're not a CPS student, you won't be able to select your school site. But when you put in other, that makes me then send you everything that we have, right? So you'll still have to sift through some of those opportunities, but it is more resourceful for you to be connected to what we're pushing out. One, because they're legitimate scholarship opportunities, meaning I've vetted them, I know who the scholarship providers are. And then the other thing is that they'll connect you to other opportunities. So maybe an organization is sharing several different scholarships, and you want to connect with the organization like the Chicago Engineering Foundation, like the Rotary Club of Chicago, and different things of that nature. So start off doing the same process, even though you're not a CPS student, with getting connected to me, because I am a citywide resource.
Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. Great question. All right, I'm sure that was about 3 minutes. But again, thank you all so much for having me. I appreciate being in this learning space with you all. If you have questions, please do not hesitate to write me, whatever the question may be. I'm here to support you, and I'm looking forward to supporting you and continuing to partner with the College Connect program and the DePaul team. So I look forward to getting your email. So again, just shoot me an email if you have questions, and I will follow up. Have a great duration of your summer, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate your help.
Thank you so much.
Anytime and every time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you so much. Even I, as a college student, appreciate all that. I'm taking notes, so thank you. I should have mentioned before, but I'll send out a like recap kind of email at the end of the day, probably, with just some more information. So you have all the links from Natalie's presentation, so you have the email from this presentation, so that all the students will have access to that. But from now, we're going to pivot into Jordan and Cynthia's advice on how to secure a letter of recommendation. So do you guys want to take it over?
It's actually Jorge and myself.
Sorry.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
You got the slide on that one, Jorge.
yeah, it's all good.
So I'm Cynthia. I am the TA for the hospitality course. And personally, I didn't know much about the etiquette when asking for letters of recommendation or sending emails until I got to DePaul. But letters of recommendation are very common and very much needed if you are applying for an academic program, a university, a scholarship, and even some jobs. So both Jorge and I created a cheat sheet for you all on letter of recommendation and email etiquette, and you can access that on D2L on Adulting 101 Week 3. And letters of recommendation and email etiquette go hand in hand. You will send a lot of emails when you go to college, and I've sent a lot of emails. So it is important that you know all this information beforehand. So please print out that page or save it to your email and keep it ever. And Jorge, you can.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Jorge. I'm a TA for the animation course, and yeah, I'm happy to be here like always. So, I mean, it's very important to know what you need and proper etiquette when you're gonna reach out to somebody for a letter of recommendation, whether it's for a program, scholarship, or sometimes even jobs require letter of recs. So we have to learn overall like etiquette, like who to ask, how to go about it. When you go up and ask for things for like scholarships, and even for college applications, you can ask almost anybody, but you have to make sure you ask the right people. right? You can ask an academic, teacher, a professor, a manager at a job. You want to ask somebody who can speak highly of you. If you take like 20-minute naps in first period, you probably don't want to ask your first period teacher for a letter of recommendation, because they might not speak highly of you. It's best that you ask a professor or a teacher that who knows you very well, who you do very well in class in, and they can speak highly on your ability as a student and someone who has been able to grow throughout the year. Anything that really jumps out, to like teachers or people you work for. Um, Also, you want to make sure that you go about this. If you ask them in person, I mean, they might just forget. And also, it's not really like Cynthia said, you need to learn proper etiquette. So probably want to follow that with an email where you actually request a letter of recommendation, because people forget, and also maybe they prefer that you ask them in a formal way. So how do we know what is general etiquette, Cynthia?
So yeah, general email etiquette. Everything is done through email, so you should know this. If you don't, if you already have a professional email address, change your email address or create a new one. It just seems unprofessional if your username is crazygirl12@gmail.com. Just change it to something professional, just your name at gmail.com. Always use the subject lines, never leave it blank. And when you do use the subject lines, be straightforward with it. So for example, if you are sending an email and you would like someone to write you a letter of recommendation, it may be as simple as request letter of recommendation, and then they'll know what the email is about. Always start with a greeting, so hello, and the content of your email should be very clear. It shouldn't be choppy, and always end with a thank you and a closing, but always spell check the content of your email. Again, if it's not spell checked, that looks unprofessional as well, and that speaks on yourself as well. So that's just on basics. In our cheat sheet that is on D2L, it goes more in depth, so please learn that. And Jorge?
Yeah, no, definitely. Thanks. You definitely want to take a look at it. There's just some helpful tips, and just a little bit of like, let's say you forgot, anything we said now, you don't want to look back to the recording. It's an easy, just quick pull up, download, and you can look at it whenever you need to. You can always go back to it. You should always have access. Um, but yeah, basically, when you're going to be asking for a letter of recommendation, you want to make sure that, like, some just key things to remember is you want to make sure you want to give the person time, anywhere from like a month to 2 weeks before you need the letter of recommendation, just so that they have time to, make a draft and write something nice about you, right? You don't want to give them, one day before it's due, and they're going to be like, well, why didn't you tell me before, but yeah, I think Michelle mentioned it. What you need is basically a brag sheet. So what this brag sheet is basically it's a list of all the things that you've done, all your accomplishments, all your accolades and I'm sorry,
Accomplishments?
accomplishments. Yeah, I forgot the word. I'm sorry. Accomplishments. Uh, all you need is your accomplishments, a list of your like accolades or like things that are very important to you. Let's say you started a club. You want to write that down. I was the president of this club. Let's say you volunteer 50 hours a week at a homeless shelter or a food service. I'm sorry. Yeah. Anyways, so any of those things that are like very important or significant, that speak to your character, you definitely want to put that down. This is the time to sort of, brag about yourself. People like being humble, but no, this is the time where you want people to know what you're about. What is it that you do beyond being a student? And then obviously at the end of that brag, you want to put down like maybe what you would like your teacher or whoever you're asking for the letter of recommendation from to focus on. So like for me, I asked my teacher to write about me as a business student because I'm applying to DePaul directly to the School of Business. So I asked her to focus on things like my mathematical skills, my speaking skills. Obviously, I still have to work on them. But yeah, I asked her to focus on stuff, and she wrote a great letter about how I'm a focused student, I'm determined, and that I've been wanting to go into business forever. And it was an awesome letter. But you have to make sure that you do have like some at least following some rules, like some time, giving us something to talk about, um, and what they should focus on in the letter. Um, Obviously, if you guys have any more questions, I think I don't want to take too much time. I think we only have a minute left. I just want to wrap things up and say thank you. Thank you for listening, and definitely and you can always find different examples online of how to write an email. If ours wasn't helpful, it should be, but you can always look at different resources. How many letter recommendation? Only as many they ask for. If they ask for three, give them three. Don't send them six. Right? The applications are very specific as to what they're asking for. And you're just giving them more content to read about you, which they might have to look over 1,000 applications. So it might be probably something that's maybe a little bit bothersome. They have to read through all your letters or rec. Yeah, they do usually let you know. Yeah. We got any more questions? Let me see. Thank you. Thank you. 2 minutes. All right. Well, thank you for listening. If you have any more questions, you can definitely email me or visit me at my office hours, and you guys should have access to all that. I'm sure Cynthia would be happy to take anybody as well. How many letters right do you need? Scholarship and comment at? How do you handle the need? How do you handle? Yeah. For how do you handle the need of letters of rec for scholarship and common app? Uh, the need. What do you mean the need? I think you mean like how do you have them uploaded? Basically, your teachers should have access to things like your Naviance, and then your Naviance is you connect that to your Common App. At least that worked when I was in high school. I'm not sure what they're using now, but it was basically all handled electronically where they uploaded the letters. Um, so those letters will be submitted to like your Naviance, and then you can select from which teachers and professors you want your letters of rec to come from when you're doing the Common App and stuff like that. But that's more like a technical thing. You could probably ask your counselor, or they usually have what's it called, um, guides and stuff like that. They teach you. They have a week or two where they show you how to do all that in high school. At least they should. And if they don't, you can email me. I could probably figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys both for presenting on that. I want to say a couple things. One, last what I mentioned, you can join him. You can email him or join his office hours. All the information is on the first section of the contents page for adulting. Has all of our contact information, all of our office hours, times, and the Zoom links and everything. Also, we're going to be dismissing to breakout rooms now, unless there's anything else Jason or Kate want to add. But if not, then you guys can bring any questions you might have there, and your individual TAs will be able to help you out. So if we're ready as a team, I'll dismiss everyone to the rooms. You won't get a pop-up. It should just dismiss you automatically. But yeah, and then feel free just whenever the TAs feel like it's necessary. Students can just leave the breakout rooms and leave the meetings. You don't have to come back to this room at the end of it. Just whenever the TAs want to dismiss you.